Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome back to part 5 of our compensation forecast. We're going to be going through some top HR topics that we figured would be a good opportunity to discuss a little bit more in depth. So rather than just looking through the compensation forecast, which is out now, of course, you can download the whole document. We figured it would be a good opportunity to sit down, discuss some of these in depth, and have John Andrews talk about what's important and what we're seeing in the market today. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit more about breaking the just-in-time recruiting cycle. I'd like to introduce back John Andrews. How are you, John?
Fine, Jeff. How you doing today?
Doing well.
From our section 4, could you autograph this incredible chart that took you 3 days to make?
Yes, I know. It's a fantastic one.
Thank you for that. Okay, let's get started. When we look at the employee life cycle, and we know all the data out there in terms of very limited labor pool, the job hoppers, half the people want a different job, and those types of things. But today we really wanted to focus on the actual process, the recruiting process.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think in the past, we use this phrase just in time. We have something in place, but we're never really proactive about it. It's like, Jeff, you lose somebody, okay, the next day we'll put an ad and we'll start the process. And what we're saying is almost like always be hiring, always be looking at the marketplace and making sure that we're giving frontline or hiring managers some tools to do their job. I think that's the weakest link in this value chop. I know HR is doing their part.
Mm-hmm.
I know senior management's doing their part. They will write the check if you need whatever the market's saying, they'll write the check. One of the handoff problems I think we're seeing, especially exacerbated right now, is that hiring manager being a part of the process.
Yep.
Okay, or making that a priority for them. And I understand it. It's worst job in a credit union is maybe a frontline manager. You got people above you saying, follow the rules, do it this way. If I catch you doing something wrong, you're not a good manager, and don't make exceptions. And you got people below, workers saying, can I have Monday off?
Yeah.
And I know we don't. Can you bend the rules a little bit? And members do the same thing. Treat me as a person, not a number. And you're in the middle of this. And now recruiting there's this, the pressure is you're 2 people down. Are you really going to, okay, they got a pulse, let's put them in there. Or, I'm so busy dropping down and working, I don't have time for to interview people.
Exactly.
So that's the weak link right now.
It's stretched so thin because there's so many angles that they're having to work, but it's the concept of having that pool, having that ability ready. I was talking with one of my clients who, right now everybody's having a hard time really recruiting.
Whose client?
One of my clients.
Thought
One of D. Hilton's clients, compensation clients. They really invest. Everybody's having a hard time recruiting and retaining call center employees. And they brought in somebody to focus specifically on that. And they literally have a waiting list to be able to get people into these positions.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is pretty much unheard of right now, that they have literally people saying, is there a position available yet? Is there a position available yet? To me, that's amazing, but that shows the power of what they're doing.
That's a great story. I mean, you have a 12-branch shop, and you rank them by performance, and the 12th branch manager, this market, it's only deposits. It's not, nobody wants a loan. You're giving me nothing to work. Nobody wants to work here. The environment's bad.
Mm-hmm.
You put number 1 branch manager in number 12 spot, and all of a sudden
things change.
They're going through going through the roof. And that's my favorite quote about what a good coach is, right?
What's that?
I can beat you with your team or my team. Which one do you want? Meaning,
how's this going down? One way or the other, we're in the newspaper tomorrow.
But I'm that confident I can assess talent and put them in the best spots to be successful, kind of thing. So today we're really going to talk about some of those gaps or the value chain where the handoffs have prevented us from being successful in the recruiting. So start with, in the past, you got a requisition, then you filled it. So we were just waiting. What we're saying is just in time's not going to work. So that's our theme today. So we look at the 4 challenges that we see for 23 is just sourcing the right people. Like the normal avenues that you use are not going to work. So we have to find different ways to cast a net. With hybrid workforces and remote working, that's sort of worked, but not necessarily for just the blocking and tackling those core jobs that we have. Okay. Dealing with different needs, and then fast tracking top talent. And then the 4th one is making sure that we have first class experience while people go through that value chain of getting hired. So I have a quick story for you. My daughter is 5 years into her career and is looking for a different situation just because she wants a different situation. And so she has, because she's in finance, she had like, she sent out 10 things and got 10, 10 requests for interviews. So she got it down to 2. One she loved and one she sort of loved. And the sort of loved one, which would have probably been a better opportunity as a dad.
Bias a little.
None of my business to get involved with that. So they get down and they go, we love you. We've had a great interview, but we need you to meet 2 more managers, and they can't interview you for 10 days. Guess what? She gets an offer from the other company, and she literally tells them, look, I really like the company, but I just need to be transparent here. I have an offer, but how long is there any way we could move it up? 10 days.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot to wait.
So you're telling me these 2 people are busy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and can't make time for 20 minutes. That was the message my daughter got.
And recruiting is not important at all.
That's the point.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you belly aching to HR about I need people, then you're not
Making yourself available
in 10 days?
No.
So guess where she didn't go?
I'm assuming she didn't wait 10 days.
No.
I mean, especially
and
if
she
you got
felt
another
bad
offer
for
on
the
the
other one
table.
because what do I tell them? I mean, I can't tell them I have another offer. That's weird. And you say you just, and so again, it comes down to they did a great job up front. They had a great job of telling her about the culture, but then the cultural discussion was trumped by the culture in action.
Action. Yeah. Words are one thing, actions are another. And actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, of course. So one of the things we're seeing a lot of Crayons do a really good job on right now is that first class experience.
Mm-hmm.
We've told you for 5 years is just because somebody signs a letter of intent to come work here or says they'll be on Monday does not guarantee they're going to be there on Monday.
Absolutely.
I think the worst day for HR people is Monday morning and looking at the voicemails and the texts, right?
Or an empty desk.
Well, it's coming and going, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's a very good point. So the idea is that we see a lot of our clients really do good things with video and testimonials to say, peer to peer, how bosses work with employees, those types of things are working well. So again, our recommendations is we got to make it human. We've got to make it peek behind the covers so they understand our culture, and we call it the employee value proposition. If I come work with you, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things is the roadblocks is in that experience. We're picking on the hiring manager here. One is if HR does all this work and puts somebody in front of you and you don't read the resume before the interview, Steve Reich one. And you're here and you're what? I've been very busy today.
Bob. Mike, how are you today? Good to see you.
And then the next thing is not giving feedback right away, saying, hey, I'm hitting the mark. Because HR will literally give you anything you want, but I got to know, it can't, I hate it. It's almost like the 3 bears?
Oh, yeah.
Is it Goldilocks? Yeah. Too much, too little, just right.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're going through on the spectrum of not hitting the mark, we're losing people right and left that might have been good candidates. The slow response, we can't ghost. And that's what happened to my daughter because a couple of days go by and she thought she'd get it went well. They said it was great. They want to talk to me. And now I have to call them to say what next step is.
Yeah.
D-Reich too.
Yeah.
Those types of things. And then just the idea that if we're going to make that relationship work between recruiting or HR and the hiring manager, the three things we're looking for are obviously faster communication, response back, clear expectations of what you want. So it doesn't have to be the 3 little bears, and then frequency.
Yep.
Going through each step. That gives us a better shot of making sure that the one that got away doesn't get away.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? I can't remember the exact statistics, so we'll have to look that up at some point in time. But if every day that goes past that you don't have some form of communication with somebody that even signed and said, "Hey, I'm going to
Yeah.
be here," the increased rate in which they are not going to show up, or they got another offer, or they're having another conversation, it goes up exponentially.
Yeah,
So that increased
yeah, we're
communication.
talking about that in Symposium because we actually did research on that, and I think it's in the 60s.
Yeah, it's
Like
huge.
60% of people that have already agreed to come work with you will entertain another offer if you don't have frequent communication during the pre-board onboarding phase of the process.
Yep, and that's a perfect time in their mind to say, you know what? I've
Yeah.
committed here, but I'm not fully committed.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I'm not
Yeah.
working. I don't know the people. So there's a very vulnerable state for them or for you to be in that position.
Well, what's the cliche is like, you get all excited because you got a new job, and then the dream job
Lands
the
in-
next day. You're kidding me.
Yeah, it's like,
Really?
You go to the store, you
I've
buy
been
the
waiting
thing,
10 years.
and the next thing comes on sale the next day.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Ah.
Really? And that happens. So the idea is that if HR can communicate, and I think it's education, it's training, it's reinforcement of
Mhm.
where we need you, why we need you, how you have to be responsive. If we're going to do a good job for you, it's got to be a two-way street.
And not to get too cliche on this, but it is also the why. We've got to focus on the why. Why do you want to be here? Why is it so important to you? Why should you actually make this decision? And if you've really reinforced that through the entire process, you're going to be able to actually have a lot more investment and more engagement. And then you continue to reinforce it with that communication, with all these other pieces of the puzzle. It's hard to argue with. And it's not groundbreaking stuff at all.
And we'll go into shops where they'll actually have metrics, time to hire and things like that. And sometimes I think HR folks are unfairly,
Mhm.
evaluated on some of those things because to me, a hiring effort is a cultural, universal, corporate, enterprise-wide, whatever word you want to use, process. It's not one-on-one.
Yep.
Unless you have your own company and
Well,
you're a company of one, then I guess it is you.
what gets measured?
So if people aren't understanding yet what we mean by just in time, and how we can't be just in time anymore, it's this idea of, okay, we're talking about talent, and talent is fluid, comes and go, engaged and not engaged. So it's something that's always on the list. I mean, an HR person that doesn't have, head of HR doesn't have hire 3 people or 20 people today on the top of the list, top of mind.
Yep.
Would be pretty unrealistic. So we talk about, would people looking at the job, the number 75% would consider going if they were treated poorly during the interview process.
That's a pretty substantial number.
Now, this is not they've got the job and then ghost you and not show up. This is they didn't like the process. They don't got a good feeling. They're going to say, I'm passing on this one.
Absolutely.
This is my daughter's situation with company number 2.
It is your first peek at the culture and the experience you're about to have.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not that far off. When we do recruiting, we say, you want to put a senior executive in different scenarios. You want to put them in a social scenario. You want to put them in a formal interview process. You want to see if they can speak. You want to see if, they're writing. Because anybody can look good in a blue suit,
I mean,
for...
case in point here, John.
No, I
It's a
lost
great
my
look.
train of thought because I've only seen you in a gray suit for 2 years.
It's a quality suit.
We're
It's consistency.
We're going shopping.
Nah.
Well, we're going shopping. But this next technique that I said, I think Craigan's are doing it really well, is does these videos, the social media aspects of why it's fun to work here, why we're committed to the community, how a not-for-profit works, and it really aligns with, our younger generation's needs for work requirements, that there are attention paid to those types of things, I think is good. So we want them to feel the culture. So anything we do with testimonials and seeing, members, happy and interacting with members. It's something I want to do. I mean, I want to be part of that fun, and I want to be part of that mission, and I want to be part of that culture. But we can't just have a frontline manager saying, I love working here. This is great. This is,
I am excited.
I'm exclamation point. No, you weren't supposed to read the exclamation point.
Bob, you're going off script.
Right. And then, because the younger generations are really gravitating towards making a difference, and the idea that credit unions absolutely make a difference in so many people's lives, and that's the story. I don't care what job we're hiring. How do we weave that in as you're making a difference?
Yep.
And no matter whether you're here 2 months or 2 years or 20 years, if you're making a difference, does that give us the advantage over another company?
And if you don't have that story clearly articulated, something that your elevator speech, so to speak, but it's something that's genuine, something that's current, something that's relevant. If you don't have that, it's definitely time to have that, especially at the interviewing process. This is who we are. This is what we do. And most importantly, this is why we do it.
Yeah.
And let me tell you a little bit more about that.
So this next theme, Jeff, on vitality is mental health is so important.
Mhm.
And as our listeners know, my other daughter is a psychiatrist, so I get a boatload of this information.
That's why
Unsolicited
you're
feedback.
so well balanced, John.
Is that what it's called? Okay. But the idea is mental health is so important today. So when we look about why do we talk about living wages, is it because we know 75 to 80% of the world goes to bed every night worried about some bill they need to pay.
Yeah.
And so if you have a job where that core, that core minimum level of financial need is taken care of, you can thrive.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. And with inflation now, we talked about that a couple webinars ago, meaning the number to feel that way is higher than it used to be because of inflation, and we need to address that. So when you can have social media or pictures or testimonials or stories where we're making a difference and that you have mental health resources, that's going to resonate with this generation we're trying to hire.
And I mean, anything that you can take off of somebody's mind when it comes down to it, you only have so much bandwidth to work with. And if you don't believe this, how many people have turned down the radio when they're looking for a street sign?
Yeah.
Because you are now focusing. It takes one thing off your mind. Same thing here. If you take a financial burden or pressure that's coming along, if that's off their mind for the time being, they're going to be able to provide better service. They're going to have more engagement. They're going to be better driven, but also tapping into individuals who have that natural proclivity for that. That's where recruiting really comes into play. Narrowing it down as well.
Great point. Great point. And then we move to this next concept, this idea of, are you prepared to have the work from home flexibility? Can I do this remote conversation? And you got to be ready for that, because who's
Mhm.
not having to deal with that in every interview, right?
Absolutely.
So when you go, I think, and this generation saying is they love the flexibility. They don't necessarily want to work from home. I have a son-in-law who's an attorney, and he was on a workforce during COVID for his firm, 20,000 people or something huge, not 20,000, 2,000.
That's a big firm.
That's Texas. 2 million people worked at this law firm. It's about 2,000. Sorry.
How big was the fish that he caught too?
Where he was on a task force of saying, what's the pros and cons of working from home? What's the balance? And because everybody had to deal with that during COVID. And really what's interesting, what came back from that study is people want, connection with colleagues. I mean,
Mhm.
the culture starts with softball team. Culture starts with Habitat for Humanity. Culture starts with, there's a really strong senior manager that I really love the wisdom they provide, and they spend the time to with me to coach or mentor.
Mhm.
And so if we lead with that instead of no,
Yeah.
maybe I get them further through the recruiting process than just a hard no.
Heck no.
I was
yeah.
trying to be careful there.
Very nice. No, it's one of those things where we have to reframe this. And there's a natural reaction, especially when we're reacting to a lot of these things, that we're going to do our knee-jerk reaction of, this is how I've done it, this is the way I've always done it, and this is how I've been successful. Okay, that's why you have done it that way. That's why you've been successful. Now it's time to look at things just a little bit different. Here's where we go back to that emotional intelligence we were talking about in another webinar, of understanding of how, when you have a change happen to you, and a lot of people just had change happen to them, how to change that into something that is change happening through you. Now it's time for growth. Now it's time to be intentional.
Right. So you go to the intentional piece of, collaboration and willing to help out, and those types of things are just going to be so much important in the offer and the value proposition you're going to do, and people are going to gravitate towards that.
Absolutely.
And if we do the hard no, and we're not willing to look at any type of adjustment, and I go, I kind of call that baloney right now, because, I mean, there was a time where, well, here's a credit union example. we used to not work Saturdays at a credit union.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden we needed to be a 6-day operation, and really we needed to be 24/7, but we were going to have physical hours on Saturday, and the debates and the discussions and and just the tough discussions people had relative to how do you put a 6-day workforce together? And nobody wants to work Saturdays. Well, guess what? There's some people that want to work on Tuesdays. They don't work on Thursdays because they're going to college, and
Yep.
their classes are 9 to 12 and then 2 to 4. But they can work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. So we learned to say, well, not everybody wants, or they're projecting what people want.
Mm-hmm.
And so this idea of flexibility has never been, it's not novel, it's been around. We just need to bring it back to the forefront.
Yeah, and look at it from a little bit different perspective. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the things that work now work because, well, they existed, and that's the way it's done. But there's always that opportunity for disruption. Change things, change the field. You may not be able to change the entire industry. You know, the cliche is Blockbuster,
But
the Netflix.
Meet me halfway, right?
Yeah.
Work with me.
So,
So
bridge the gap.
if it's a hard no, like, no, we're a retail service environment, we have to be here. Yes, but
yeah,
spin that and say, absolutely, we're committed to flexibility. You let us know how you fit this into your education or daycare situation, or, having a significant other that you need to swap things, whatever, time. And then at that point, you lead with that, and then we see if we can fit them in.
yeah. It's challenging what we know, and
It's challenging. No, it's the fast.
yeah.
It's the fast no and moving on, which is not going to work in today's environment. So our last slide for our presentation, I promise no one provided any gratuities to me, is I'm, after 35 years, I've done a lot of organizational structural work, and I've seen the HR job evolve, the top job and the department, wonderful. I've seen it in the 70s and 80s where it was, there was an executive assistant or a admin person that had maxed out, so we need to find something else for them to do.
Mhm.
We need an HR person, and they're the best hander out of dental forms there ever was. And then we've evolved into a necessary evil and those types of things, and to really being a contributor. And so the idea is that so many of our top jobs still are slashes in the title. It's HR/admin/facilities/marketing, and are saying, if we define that chief HR job, and I'm talking at not multi-billion-dollar shops, I'm talking 200, 500, 750 and up jobs, as if you're in charge of the workplace, the worker, and the workforce, isn't that enough?
Yeah.
And what we've kind of laid out today, especially in recruiting, if it's not top of mind, and the plumbing on floor 3 is backed up, and you're having to go do your admin or facilities role.
While I'm dealing with a worker comp claim, and
Yeah, and oh, by the way, I've got 12 spots to fill.
mm-hmm.
I just think we're sending the wrong direction, wrong signal. And the idea is, so CEOs out there and boards out there, when you look at org structures, the more we can say, this is relevant, this touches every part of our organization, you want the best and brightest there. And just like with that employee was worried about, financial issues at night, I want that HR person worried about HR issues at night.
I mean, you say that, this is our organization. It
Yeah.
literally is your organization, because if there's no people there,
Yeah.
you have no organization.
But, in the last 18 months is, we've grown a lot, and people are kind of busting at the seams because of deposits, and we're naturally successful. People are just gravitating to our message. We got a ton of members out there, and it's put this burden on HR.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that other people are not
Burdened as
having
well. Yeah.
have
Multiple hats.
It's just a multiple hat issue. And I'm saying is, I think people do, if the vision is, I want the best and brightest working for me, I want to create a great workplace, I want a great employee proposition, that's a full-time job.
Yep.
So as you go forward, and especially today when we talked about recruiting, the idea is, when you look at the gaps or where the missed handoffs on the value chain of, like, where that hiring manager is not available, it doesn't look at the material, or, doesn't get back to the HR people, is it a good fit or not? Every time we do that, we're just moving farther and further away from being that successful culture.
Absolutely. And
So
this is one of those things where, it goes back to the age old. If they're too delved into the tactical, the technical, the day to day, can you be strategic?
yeah,
And can a CHRO that's managing all of this stuff truly be strategic with their people, with the onboarding, with the process, engaging new employees in a completely engaging and different way? Can they do all that?
yeah.
I don't think the answer. I don't think we can.
I
We've
mean,
done it
there are
the old way.
super men and super women doing these jobs. There's no question.
Yeah.
But is it a fair fight?
No.
And I don't think that's changing.
Yeah.
Inflation goes down, supply and demand levels out. Still, the issues that we're talking about. If you're creating a culture, in charge of that culture, then it's definitely full time.
No, it's the age old. What got you here won't get you there. We can have the same results that we had before, and that might be okay, and that's
Yeah.
great. But if you want to take that next step, want to go into the next level, yeah, we're going to have to do something a little bit differently. And getting the right individuals in the right place at the right time, not waiting for that situation to happen to then react to it, is going to be a necessity moving forward.
And for every time I say that's not the way to do it, I know there's 10 other credit unions out there that have made that work in that blended roles. But when I look at a sales job, I go, I'm at the counter and I'm a salesperson, but I'm also taking the order. And then I go, would you like, you like the number 3 cheeseburger with fries? And I go, would you like biggie fries? And ooh, that sounds good. So you get the biggie fries, and then I got to go make the fries. That's a blended job, because every time I'm back in the back, making the fries to get them hot and fresh, or whatever the criteria for proper fry fulfillment is, I'm not selling the next person biggie fries.
Exactly.
So when I look at an HR person and I start to look at these blended jobs, I'm going, the time they're spending on these other activities is not where they're building my workforce, retaining my workforce, making sure that I've got people in the pipeline so we have really special talent to differentiate this business.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you take a different, slant on that, that's A-okay. But again, when you look at your pinch points of why you're not hiring people or getting them in the system fast enough, go back to what we put on the plate. That's all we're saying. Okay? And send all your complaint letters to Jeff.
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to take all of those, forward them directly to John. They will receive the proper attention.
Because we're a team?
Team.
Okay.
Yes. Congratulations. Welcome to the team, John.
Thank you. Excited to be there.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We do sincerely appreciate you spending time with us. This does conclude the 5th and final section of the compensation forecast, where we've talked about the HR topics that have been going along. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always certainly happy to discuss. As you can tell, we're fairly passionate about this, so we certainly want to take the time to help you out as well. Other than that, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. We do sincerely appreciate your time. We hope to see you again soon. Thanks a lot.
And because this is recorded, if you have any specific questions for your specific situation, please give Jeff a call, who will then send it to me. Is that how are we doing?
I
this?
love that. It's a daisy chain of responsibility.
Okay, great.
That's called delegation. That's good leadership, John.
Well, I hope your emotional intelligence kicks in and tells us that we can all do this.
I am triggered. I feel personally attacked. Okay, I'm noticing that. I'm pulling it in.
Man,
Thanks, guys. It's been fun.
Smart guy. Thanks for listening, and we will see you soon. Take care.
Thank you.